Hey everyone, welcome back to TRCOA's Behind the Groove Seminar. I am Ben Kliever and welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about piano miking. Feel free to introduce yourself and ask questions in the chat as we go along. So for tonight, like I said, we're going to be doing piano miking. So what the overview of tonight is, the big thing we're going to be doing is I'm going to show y'all several different miking techniques, how to set them up, what their tonal characteristics are, why you may choose these different ways, and then this gives you a more educated way of going into a session and knowing what sounds you may need with the piano for that. If it's whether it's your traditional nice classical big huge wide piano, or if you're looking for a darker, more mellow sound that may be going with just a mellow song or going to something more lo-fi or something like that. Or then we also are going to show you another method that's very bright that really accents highs and leads, and gets more of the percussive action, and even can help if you're doing more of kind of like a Western honky-tonk kind of thing, can also pick up even more and kind of give you that really high, bouncy kind of high end. So those are the three methods we're going to be looking at for piano tonight. So thanks everyone for being here. Welcome, welcome. As y'all can see, if we kind of flip over to the screen here, we're up here in just a moment. I'm about to go walk over into the live room, and then we'll take a look at all the mics that I have set up so far. But just a brief, quick look at the session we have going on here. You can see we're going to be doing multiple different pairs here, and these are going to be the three ways that we're going to look at. We're going to be looking at our traditional wide stereo left and right, our over the sound holes, which is going to be more mellow, and then we're going to look at over the pens, which is going to be very bright and percussive. Also, another thing we're going to be doing as well is I'm going to show you all how to take a MIDI track as well from your performance from whatever your artist is playing. So that way, if you need to, if for some reason something goes wrong, you can, pull up a digital grand piano, even though it may not sound exactly the same, you can still save your session that way. Or if you have a plan in mind where you want the grand piano in there, but you're gonna use the performance behind it and layer in some pads or some other synth sounds or something like that, where you're changing the tone of that, then that's something else you can do at the MIDI as well. So those are going to be the main three things the main things that we're going to be looking at tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and grab my my mobile cam here, and then we're going to go out, take a look at the piano, and talk about the piano and some of these miking positions that we have set up. And I will take my phone with me just in case y'all answer some questions during that time. Boom. All right, here we go. So we're going to go into the live room. And here we go. We got our piano set up over here. I just kind of want y'all to see I got 6 mics on the piano today, and we're going to be talking about these 3 different methods. So let me get over here where I'm in the best spot possible to look at these. Okay. So the first ones that we're going to look at here is we're going to look at the TLM 103s, which we have one on the high end, and then we have one on the low end over here. So just looking at the piano in general, we can see that this, let me move to the front of the piano right quick and move where I can talk about this. So if you were sitting here looking from where the piano player would be playing, looking at the piano, we can see that this, if y'all didn't know, pianos are stringed instruments. So we can see there's already a bunch of strings we got going on out here, and this is what's going to be making all our sound. For those of you who don't know how pianos work, you can see, like, even when I'm hitting the string here, it's going to lift a hammer under here. You can see the little hammer popping up underneath the strings right here. And then that lifts our mute and hits the string. And now, as long as I'm holding my hand on the key, the mute will stay up, which allows the note to sustain as long as it will. And so that's however long the string rings out. The second I let go of the note, you see it drops. So just in general, that's how the piano is going to work. It's a stringed instrument. It's also a percussion instrument, because however hard we're tapping the percussion and doing in those speeds, that's how loud that's going to be. So the piano, you can think of it as a stringed and a percussive instrument. Now, as we look over here, this is going to be our big low end over here on the far left. Like, these strings are much thicker than all the other strings we see on the piano. So even if I kind of tap on, it sounds like a bass string over here. I mean, it almost sounds like what you'd hear on a bass guitar, because that's what they got, is huge old bass strings on this side that's going to be covering all our low end. And then as you see over here, we transition from our lows to like our mid lows, to our mid highs, and all the way to our highs. And if we notice on the mid lows, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute, all the strings besides the bass ones have actually three strings for each note. And that's what gives them a longer sustain. And then even by the end here on the super high notes, you can see we actually don't even have mutes on these last strings, because they're so high and so tightly strung that the sustain is so quick that they're going to that they don't even need to put a mute on there to control it. But as you kind of see back here, like these mid low, like these mid lows right here, they actually come over here and go underneath the low strings as well. So we're gonna, when we talk about this 103 over here, we're gonna be catching both of them at the same time from this scenario. So let me get over here and let's talk about these miking techniques after we just kind of went a little bit about the piano. So from here, looking at our miking technique, we're looking at the TLM 103s only, which are the silver ones here on the wide to the left. So this is going to be our wide, classical kind of stereo, traditional way of tracking piano. I have our low end here. I always like to start with the low end first as my left side. And so this, if we kind of see, this is actually looking straight over the low strings, and it's picking up the mid lows that are underneath those strings as well. So we're going to get that whole half of the piano from this mic. And then our other 103 we have is over here over our high end. Since this is wide diaphragm, it's going to pick up a little bit wider shot. So we're going to get this whole high end area picking up from that. But I'm more focused in this area just because normally on piano, there's not quite as much happening up in this super, super high section, and there's definitely going to be a lot going on this, but this will still pick up that section no matter what. Now, one thing I want you to see from this that's very important anytime that you are putting microphones on the piano, this is anything, we've talked about it on drums and other things too, we want to try to get these mics as level as possible. So these mics are pretty dang level right there. So we want them to be about the same distance off of the piano whenever we're tracking. So that way we have great phase and we have a super full sound going on with this. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything while I was explaining that segment. Sorry, my YouTube video is frozen. If y'all ask anything, I haven't seen it yet, so 1 second. One moment, guys. All right, back in. Wanted to make sure I just didn't miss anything from you guys while I was explaining this. Okay, we're good. All right. So that was talking about our traditional, standard stereo pair that we're using for tracking piano when we're wanting the big, nice, beautiful, big and wide piano. That's what we're going for. Now, these other methods are still going to be pretty too, but that's just kind of the more traditional standard method. Now, the next method we're going to talk about here is the two mics that are in between the 103s, which are our KM 184s. And those, you can see I actually have these right over the sound holes in here. So they're picking up right over the top of these sound holes. Now, Since these are not looking right at the string, so this is our low end coming out of this one. Then we have a mid hole and a high hole. Now on this one, I'm picking the mid and the low because the high, again, there's just not as much playing happening on this high end of a piano. So I'm trying to focus on the main areas where I know that they're going to be performing and getting the most out of that. So that's why I'm looking at these two in the mid and the low. And so again, same thing. I want these to be the same distance off of the sound hole off of this piano that I'm looking at there, so we get great phase and everything's full sounding. So this method right here, which I just kind of call over the sound holes method, is going to be more mellow than the standard traditional method. It's also not going to feel quite as wide. It's still going to be pretty, but it's going to be much mellower and darker. And this is the method that I would lean towards more if you're trying to have that more mellow sound, or you're trying to go more kind of lo-fi. This is going to help you be. It's just going to kind of roll off a lot of that top end since we're not looking directly at the strings. So that's So we've looked at the traditional stereo wide pair, and then we have the over the sound holes method. And then this last one is another kind of little bit different method that I really like, which for this method we have to take off, let me get this camera in the right spot. We have to take off, normally right here where I'm looking, there's normally a slot here that holds where the music stand goes. I think I can actually see it right over here. I just want you all to know what it looks like if you're up here. So I actually pulled this music stand right out of the piano, so I can actually see all these pins right here that we're looking at, because normally you wouldn't be able to see all like all the pins and where the hammers are actually hitting the mutes. But for this method that I'm trying to do right here, I wanted to get that out of the way because I want to be able to pick up the parts of the actual bounciness of and some of the percussion of the hammers hitting the strings here. You're also going to hear some of like the actual player hitting the keys, which is a part of this. So this is going to be the brightest method, but it's also going to bring in a lot of the percussive elements of the piano where you can actually hear how the player's tapping and get a little more like punch and feel from what he's actually playing, which there's times you really want that piano to feel bouncy or feel really bright. This method's also really, since it is the brightest out of all these other methods that we're looking at, it is very good on high leads. It makes them sing. They are very crisp. They're very bright. They're very out front. This will cut through almost like, even some of the densest mixes if you're trying to get a high piano part to really cut through stuff. So now you'll notice here, this one I did a crossed like stereo method. I'm actually using a stereo bar. And as you can see, I have this attached right here, and I have this side, let me see if I can get this to look the right way, looking right down the low end, because this is all our low end over here. And then when I come from this side, we're looking right down the high end. So this is actually gonna have this is gonna have the tightest phase, but it's also gonna be the least like stereo wide because our mics are so close together, but we're still gonna be able to pan these far left and right and get that full signal. But so that is what this over the pins method is going to be for. So just kind of like an overview of these methods, again, of just, tonal wise, what we're looking at here is over the pins method is the brightest and the most percussive, and it's going to really make high leads sing, and it's really going to cut through the mix. Now, over here, when we're looking back at if we look at these over the sound holes, over the sound holes mics, that's going to be our mellow, darker sound compared to all these. It's still going to be a real good full piano sound and still sound pretty. It's just going to be much darker than the other two. And whenever we listen to all three of these methods back to back to back, we'll really be able to hear the difference in those. And then the 103s are our traditional stereo wide piano technique for getting that big, full, classical piano type sound that everyone's used to hearing. But I wanted to give you the other options too, so you can go into your session depending on whatever you need for the sound of your piano to be, and you can be able to achieve that. So we have both of those set up. We got 3 different stereo pairs. I'm gonna go back into the the control room, and we will start making, John's gonna play a little piano for us, and we'll dial him in, and then we'll do a few recordings, and we'll look at those. But before we go back in, we're gonna look at where we connect MIDI too, because I remember I talked to y'all and I wanted y'all to know how to connect MIDI. So, if you are taking a performance, let me get this where I'm in the best spot. So if you are taking a performance of MIDI, there is a box right here underneath the piano, and you turn it on right here with this silver button right here. You just press in the middle. There's a little volume knob on the outside. If you can actually see, I can turn this knob on the outside of it, but I want it to be all the way left because I don't want to hear any of that. I just need it to be on, and what we really want to see is that when I hit a key, y'all can see this line right here that I can see that I'm getting MIDI information. And however hard I hit that, or soft, that's how much the meter jumps. So this is the box we need to get MIDI. So we're actually sending MIDI out of this to be able to get it into Pro Tools for us to take. So let me see if I can get down here and show you an angle of what we're looking at behind this. So if we go under the piano, and let me get a good angle, and let me see if I can get zoomed in good enough to do this. So we have quite a few different little plugs in here. We got MIDI in right here, got MIDI out right here, and MIDI through. So MIDI in would be if you were sending MIDI into this, MIDI through would be transferring it to another place, like actually sending the signal somewhere else and now to another MIDI device. But we're taking MIDI out, which is the middle one right here, and that's going to let us, anything that they're playing, it's going to record that MIDI information onto a MIDI track in the session, and I'll show you what that track looks like. Now, once we have plugged that MIDI cable in, let me see if I can get to the right spot. That's going to be that cable over there, and we're going to follow that cable. This is where you're going to plug in the MIDI cable once you've taken it off the MIDI box. You're going to come over to the same snake that we have over here that you can route your guitars through. On the end over here, we have Control A MIDI. You can see it even says that, Control A MIDI, so you know that it's sending the MIDI information into the control room. So that is how we would take MIDI off of this piano and plug in there, and then look at our three different miking techniques. So got the other ones on large stands, and then this is on the super big overhead stand to be able to reach far enough to put the stereo pair on. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into the control room, and then we will do some dialing in of the piano, and then we'll actually get a chance to listen to some of these recording techniques. Okay. So let me make sure I am completely live. Oh no. That's not live now. Getting used to this little app. Threw me off a little bit, sorry guys. Okay. Yes, sir. So, first thing we're going to do here on this thing is we're going to listen to the piano low and high here, and that's going to be the first one we're going to check out, and that's going to be our traditional piano view here. So I'm going to have John, who's going to play the piano for us. I'm just going to dial him in and make sure we have full signal. John, if you can hear me in either of the headphones, you're good. So you can go ahead and start playing, and we're going to go ahead and get you dialed in to make sure we're at a good level. So guys, I just want, same thing as everything else, I'm going to kind of let him play and have him hit it hard, and we want to kind of keep it where we're right around that -18 to -15 on his strong hits. And it's okay if it jumps a little bit. We just want to make sure we're not getting anywhere crazy like clipping or anything. All right, now we'll do a little recording of this. So John, if you can play whatever piece you're going to play, I'm going to go ahead and start recording now. Cool, that is great. Thank you, John. Now I'm gonna move over to the next microphone. So I want to dial that in. So if you can start kind of playing that same, let me send those to your headphones. If y'all notice here, I'm sending each headphone, each different headphone selection to him, because these are all going to sound a little different, and y'all have heard me harp on how important I'm telling y'all that headphone mixes are. It matters a lot. So I have these already panned out far left and right, which is what we want to do with pianos, because whenever you have the full piano just sitting dead middle on both of my low and my high end, especially when they're in the headphones, it really sounds like the piano is on top of each other, and it's not as easy for them to hear. So we want to go ahead and pan those far left and far right for their headphones, so they're getting that nice separation, and the piano feels like they're sitting in front of the piano, what they're used to hearing. Now, on this, the reason that I didn't just have him play one thing and just go is I want him to actually hear what the different miking positions sound like in his headphones, because performers are gonna they're gonna make their how hard they're hitting their source or their instrument is gonna depend on what they're hearing in their headphones. Because good studio musicians who are used to being in the studio, and the more you work with them, they get being able to hear how strong something's coming through their headphones is going to control exactly the performance you're going to get. So it's the better that is, the better their performance is, the better they're playing, and the better end product everyone's going to have, which is going to be the best case scenario for everybody. So I guess my tip on that is just always try to get your headphones as good as possible, and then when you are recording something from different miking positions, let them actually play to those different miking positions as different takes in their headphones, unless you're reamping, which is a different thing, which we talked about last week. Because then their inflections are just a little bit different when they hear like from one miking position to another. So, all right, John. So let's. We're on the sound holes now, which are going to be our more darker kind of mellow thing. So if you can go ahead and start playing some tunes for me on that, so I can get you dialed in. Our levels look pretty good already on that. It's sitting pretty nice. They're pretty level. John, can you hit it hard right quick? Like as hard as you'd hit it? Perfect. Great. And then whenever you are ready, I'm going to go ahead and let me mute this other one so no one else is hearing that. And we are tracking, and you're good to play whenever. Thank you, sir. Awesome, great. So now we got our stereo wides, and we got our sound holes tracked. So now we're going to move to the pens, and I'm also going to take the MIDI on this performance so y'all can see what the MIDI is going to look like. I just did with all three in a row. I wasn't going to take MIDI 3 times in a row, but we'll capture the MIDI on this performance, and then y'all can see that it's literally on this piano roll right here on the MIDI channel. It's going to record exactly what he's playing, just like if you were in the MIDI section of Pro Tools, or if you're in your DAW of choice that you like to make beats in, whether that be FL or Logic or Ableton or whatever your DAW of choice is. This is going to show just like you would draw in your own piano roll, but this is going to physically take his performance and all his velocities and save all that on there. So if you decide that you need to make that a piano or make it a synth, you certainly can do that, and you have his performance sitting right there for you. So John, let's go ahead and let's have you play for just a second so I can get you dialed in on the pens. And guys, this is going to be the brightest one out of all these. That's already sitting pretty good. Hey John, can you do those hard hits just a couple more times for me? Perfect. All right, I think we're sitting good now. So as y'all can see right here, when he was playing, this whole MIDI bar right here, 1 second, John, then I'll let you know when I'm recording. This MIDI bar lights all the way up too whenever you're looking at this screen. So if you're not seeing MIDI information, this is what you want to see. And just so y'all know, if you're not seeing MIDI information in the studio here, the cable works, the box works, and the snake works. So you just need to make sure, go back to your plugins on either the snake and on the MIDI box and just make sure they're fully pushed all the way in, and that if you're coming out of the MIDI box, you're coming out of MIDI out. You're not using MIDI in or MIDI through. You want to use MIDI out to send the signal out of the box into Pro Tools, okay? So, all right, John, we are recording, so you are good to go, sir. Awesome, thank you, sir. Let me move this. Now I'm just gonna move this to where these are all kind of lined up because I want us to hear these. Now we're gonna kind of A-B between all these so we can really hear the difference. And you see, since I'm in a group, this is going to make this much easier to get these really close to being lined up with each other, or just close enough, you know, where it's playing something similar to it. Actually, it looked like these were more lined up right around here. And we'll just leave that. We can listen to all these the way they are. So as you can see, when we took that one, it's actually drew out the MIDI. Nice, Matt. You can see it actually drew out his MIDI. And remember from us talking just a little bit last week, or whenever we did the Pro Tools and Functions section, Control and the equal sign is going to open our MIDI window. So here we can actually see, let me open this window up a little wider. I'm not sure why it wasn't all the way down here to start with. So, but you can see it's got it has all the notes that he played. It's even capturing the different velocity levels that he's hitting all these notes at. So it's gonna feel like a real performance on like where it's not programmed and it doesn't sound like they're all being played exactly the same, which really helps with, you know, making music stand out when you have things that aren't just hitting the exact same velocity the whole time. The other kind of give and take just gives it that natural feel that people are used to listening to. But I want you to see it's that, you know, you can get that whole performance right there underneath it. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start and actually just sit here in A-B and listen between our different pianos here, so y'all can really hear the difference in these different piano positionings. So the first one we're going to look at here is our stereo piano rolls, which is the big wide left and right over the piano. So let's give that a listen. It does have all my things panned out left and right, so that's what we want to see. So we can see on that one, it's nice, it's big, and it's pretty, and it's full. And this is, you know, this method's really, I mean, this method's good for any tracking that you're doing, but it's really gonna lend itself to something that's gonna be like the piano. If the piano is the focal point in the song, like, hey, this is a piano song with, you know, it might have orchestral stuff, or it might have vocals over it too, or even other elements. But if the piano is the big main part of that, like if it's, I'm trying to think of like some people that do like lots of just piano stuff. Like, I mean, you know, you think like Elton John, or thinking like 90s, like like Vanessa Carlton or something like that. Just someone who has a full thing piano. This is probably what this is going to give you, that full giant sound. So that is the stereo method. That is the traditional stereo method. Now we'll move to the holes method, which is, like I said, is going to be a nice, darker, mellower sound to that. What's up, Harry? So still nice and clean, still, you know, it still feels full, but it's just, you know, it's not as present, it's not as much in your face, you know, it's not, and that's, you know, that's on purpose. Since we're over the sound holes and not over the strings, it's not gonna be as bright. So that's the main reason for that, because even though we're hitting, like, what's happening on the sound holes is that it's, when the sound's coming through, like there's actually like a little plate that's underneath those strings, like where the piano is built, and the air is pushing underneath and coming up out of those sound holes, and that's what we're getting. Now sometimes like this feels, with what he's playing, it feels really good, and there's not really too much mud going on in there. Now sometimes, just with the sound holes, just so you know, sometimes there can be a little bit of resonant buildup kind of in those mid lows that can happen sometimes around like the 300 to 500 range, sometimes in there, that can kind of just get boxy or built up because we are looking over a sound hole. So not every time is it going to be there, but that's something I want you to be aware of in pieces. So if that is there, that's something where you can do little, you know, you can do little tiny cuts. If you did everything, you can pull up an EQ and just cut out a little bit of that muddiness, and it'll sound super clean if you ever come across that issue running up from the sound holes. So that is the sound, that is miking over the sound holes. Then this third one here, we're going to listen to over the pins, which I said this is going to be the most bright, it's going to be the most percussive, and it's going to, you know, push it the most up front and put it kind of in your face, because we're right there where all the attack's happening. See, we can really hear on those right there, like how, like you can hear his like hand like hitting the chords even. Listen on these two big hits right here. You're gonna hear like his actual percussion of his hands hitting these. Which, like, we are closer to them already because the mics are, because the mic is already just naturally closer to where he's playing too, so that's going to pick up that more, using the KM184s, they're super sensitive and pick up everything, and I love them. They sound great on any stringed instrument that you're listening to. So that sounds really good. I'm going to line these up just a little bit more so we can hear these now more direct, quick back and forths between these, because I know I'm saying what I'm describing the sounds, and you should be able to hear them between those two. But if you can't, this is going to make it very evident when we're listening just straight across each one of these multiple times. So this is starting with our. Let me switch this to this is the easiest way to A/B too. If y'all don't know inside Pro Tools, I'm gonna go into my solo mode here, and I'm switching it to XOR. Since we're here, we'll just kind of talk about this. Latch is just lets you turn on as many solos as you want at a time. Like I can just click every single one, and it'll solo all of them out. Which for this, I want to switch in between all these different sounds. So that's what I'm going to use XOR for. So what XOR means is you only have one solo happening at a time, or a group. I have each one of these pairs in a group. So this is the perfect example of why you should use groups. Groups make your life so much easier. I can easily fly around this session. You can see I was moving both. I can move the sections together. And now that I have the XOR on, when I hit solo, I can just quickly, the second I hit solo on another channel, it's soloing just that channel, and it cancels the solo on the other one. Now, That's all y'all are gonna see at home. Same thing I only have because we just have regular Pro Tools systems. Up here we have an HD system. So there is one other solo mode option, which is momentary, which just so y'all know, that is just as long as you're clicked and you're holding down on it, it's soloed as long as you do that. But the second you let go of the mouse, it is no longer soloing. So that's what momentary means. And this is for this and those terms, latch and momentary, that goes across any pedal type in music, just in general, because you'll hear that with guitar pedals. You may hear it, there's different keyboard pedals that work the same way. Momentary, just anytime, like sustain pedal on a keyboard or a piano is momentary because it's only sustaining when you push the pedal down, and it's only staying sustained as long as you have it pushed down. The second you let go with your foot, oh, we do. We all have the Ultimate for the next 3 months. Well, that's cool. Learn some, now you know. So, but anything that you're pushing down and holding, and then the second you let go of it, that effect or whatever it is doing, that's what latch is. I mean, that's what momentary is. My mistake. Momentary is just anytime you have to hold it down, and the second you let go, it's off. Latch is where you just tap it once, so like when you have a guitar pedal that's like your distortion pedal or your reverb pedal, when you click that pedal, it's latched, like it's on, and it's not gonna go off again until you click it again. So that's latch. Click it once and it's on, click it again and it's off. Momentary's click it and hold it, and it'll stay on as long as you hold it. Second you let go, it's off. So that is just across the board for anything music-wise when you hear latch or momentary, but that also applies to solo here. Now I'm gonna go back to my XOR so I can quickly go between these. So let's listen to, we're gonna listen to the big wide here, drop straight down into the holes and listen to the pins, and we're just gonna listen to this. I'm not even gonna say anything while we do these next three, so we can just listen to the tone changes, then we'll talk about it. Quite as hard on this one, so just gonna get it in the same ballpark. So you can, so even though this sounds, so we got a little bit of a, like, we'll come back and listen to these again here in just a second so y'all can hear the difference in those again. But you can see these are definitely our two brightest. This one's still a little bit brighter than the other one, even the pins down here. This is just going to be big and full. Now this one we can definitely hear it's going to be much mellower. That's where you can really hear the brightness on this, which is like these two notes right here are the sounds you're going for if you're going for the bright one. As it really makes that tie end crispy, and then on the lows just very, very mellow for these two things. Where on this you're going to hear kind of a lot of the high end, but this is just going to be super full. Let's give those one more. We'll give those another listen through. So we got standard, holes, pins. Hopefully y'all can really hear the difference between those different piano methods there for between our standard stereo, our big stereo, our over the sound holes, and then over our pins. We'll talk about the MIDI here for just a few more minutes. If y'all have any questions about any of the tracking part of this or taking MIDI or any of that kind of stuff, just let me know. Just so y'all know, if you are doing playlists, like playlisting works fine on all these guys just the same, but just so you know, like when you try to do a playlist on, I just want you to see like on MIDI, it'll make one, but you can't, you don't have a like actual playlist view if you notice down here. So that's why I didn't take a bunch. So just make sure you're aware of that. Like you have to physically go click on the different MIDI performances that are in there. Unlike this where we can just go in and click playlists if we had other playlists on there. So now, just so y'all know, again, this is an actual MIDI capture track. So this is made just for capturing MIDI. It doesn't play MIDI, it's just there to, that's why it's perfect for a tracking session. It doesn't take up any, any CPU usage at all. It's just taking his performance here. Now, if we wanted to use this MIDI and, thanks, Errol, glad you can hear the difference. Yeah, there's a big, and I'll go play through these one more time just at the end, just so y'all can hear one final time. But what I wanted to show you here is that if you wanted to actually, basically use this with a different VST, what we'd need to create is a new track from an actual instrument track. So you have MIDI track, and instrument track uses MIDI, but now we have a slot to actually have an instrument. So this is where anytime you have an instrument track, let's go up here. Anytime you right click on any of these names, it gives us our window of our window of different options we can show on this. So we want to show the instrument, and I'm just going to select a grand piano just so we can, just so I can re-mic this scenario. But this is the stock grand piano that comes in Pro Tools. And so now that I got that on there, if I just take this performance, I can option click it and drag, and now it copied my MIDI information down to the instrument, and now I can solo this and I should be able to just listen to. So now there's our digital piano. And here's our real piano. And they sound pretty close. There's just a lot more depth in the real piano than in the digital one. You can just, you can feel the air and feel it in the room. Digital. But it's very close, but it's close enough where you can use that if you needed to. Now, like even if you were kind of getting, you can see, like if I selected a different, like let's say I wanted to use a different, this is a built-in instrument in Pro Tools. Let's say you just wanted to do something that wasn't piano. I just want y'all to hear the difference. You can throw a pad or, throw any type of, let's see if there's any regular just chill pad we got going on here. Polysynth, we'll just do a little stack thing here where we can do multiple things. So like if you wanted to get, layer something completely different than what you can even take that MIDI and make it not be a piano. And now you can make it sound like whatever you want, so. Yes, Jay, that is exactly what I just did. So I can tell you what I did again on that. But so basically, I'm just gonna hide this for just a second. Let me just mute this. So. Like this purple track right here that we took, that is just MIDI information. So as I said, like that is MIDI information. So what I did is I created an instrument track and I just copied that MIDI data over to the instrument track. And on the instrument track, that's where I can pick whatever VST, whatever sample, and you can go in there and you can, I mean, I can chop this up. You can change the performance if you wanted to. You can change notes. It's just like, the second that it's in the piano roll, it's just like any other MIDI roll that you've created, except all the velocities and the notes are already there instead of you having to draw it in. So it's just already played in there. So again, how you would do that is from here, I would just create a new track, which you can either go to track and create new, or you can use Shift Command N to create a new track. And I'm going to make a stereo instrument track. I'm just gonna do the exact same thing. And when I create the new instrument track that's blank here, like I said, you just take this performance, copy it. Now we have the MIDI information in this instrument track. And I need to put an instrument on it, that would help too. But let's just say, so now if I pick, like I said, that's why I was picking an instrument that was just completely different than what we were, than what we were listening to. Where's that, like a little saw stack, whatever. So now we got so now I've taken the information off this MIDI track, created an instrument track, and just copied that information down to it, and then you can morph that however you want. So yes, that is how you would take the MIDI information, put out an instrument track, and make it whatever information, like make it whatever you want it to sound like. So hopefully that answered your question, Jay. So that is how I would deal with that. Just so you know, because this has happened to me before, whenever you're dealing with MIDI, if ever one of these things gets disconnected, just make sure you come up here and, you know, pick your, pick the, most of the time you can just pick the all thing and it'll let you do everything. I mean, are you, like, Errol, are you asking that it's, like, can you send the MIDI info to a track or multiple tracks instead of copying? I mean, on this unless you were trying to do it for an effect, I wouldn't use a send, or, because at that point I would tell you to just like commit it to audio if you were trying to use it as a send and do something parallel or something with it. But with the MIDI information, I would think it would be, you would need to copy that MIDI information onto the other instrument track so it has a performance to read. So I would think you would need to copy your MIDI for it to function on an instrument track properly. Hopefully I'm answering what you are asking correctly, because I mean, you can send it anywhere. I would just think copying it over to the channel you want it to be on would be the easiest way to do it. Hopefully that answered your question, Errol. If not, please try to ask it again, and I'll try to explain it a different way. But without having this MIDI information on here, I won't, on this track, I'm not gonna be able to hear what it's gonna sound like. One more time, we'll go through and we'll just do a quick listen through of our different different tones here. So we have the pens. It was more for effects. Oh, I got you. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so you can, I mean, on your actual MIDI track, yes, like once you've made an instrument track, you can use this to send sends just like you would an audio track, just like in any other DAW. You can send it to reverbs or other distortions or other things that you're doing. So yeah, you can use that send menu just like you would with an audio track as well. So yeah, absolutely. So one more time through, take a quick listen to these, and if y'all have any other questions while we're listening to this, please ask them, because we're getting towards the end here, and I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we're going to do a final listen through, and we'll go to close. So here's the pens again. Then our nice, full classical sound, where this is the main instrument. Then we got our more dull, darker, mellower tone, still nice and pretty. mean, you can really hear how much the high end is rolled off when you're on the sound holes. I mean, you can even hear the air on this one, and you're not really feeling the air in the sound holes. Cool. So guys, that is, piano tracking is, you can get more creative with it if you want and throw up other stuff. But I mean, for the most part on piano tracking stuff, you get the mics set up in good spots, get them nice and level, whether that be our stereo wide method, which gives us the full classical side where we're basically looking at half the highs, half the lows. On all our piano stuff, we want to pay them mostly, we want to pan them far left and far right so it's covering the whole image, because we're looking at the piano like the player is, coming all the way from the low end all the way from the high end. So that's why I always, if you noticed on all my tracks, I have all the lows first on every single one, because I always want to think like I'm sitting in the piano where the lows are on the left end and my high end's on the right end. So it's like it's always spread that way across my spectrum, even in my speakers. So that's just a quick overview of the methods. Stereo method, great for classical, great for everything, going to give you the fullest, widest sound, and great for if piano is going to be the main instrument. The over the sound holes method is the darkest, mellowest tone out of these methods, and it's going to roll off the high end more, so that's going to be the dark mellow side setup. And then over the pens is the last one that is going to give us our brightest, most percussive, most air of these methods, and it'll also give us, you'll hear the most, key noise and some of that as well. And it's really good for if you're wanting high leads to really cut through. And so those are our three miking methods. And then with the MIDI, you just want to make sure you're coming out of the MIDI out from the MIDI box into if you have an interface at home that's coming through this. You can do this same thing if you don't have if you have, like this piano just happens as a MIDI box, but if you have any synth player that's in a session, whether they have a Nord or any type of analog keyboard, there should be a MIDI out coming off of the back of their keyboards as well. And if you have an interface at home that accepts MIDI, or if you're up here, you have a snake that you can plug in to get MIDI, you can take it off of any analog, keyboard style instrument that has MIDI out, and you'll be able to get this exact same information in your session as well. So thanks everybody for checking in tonight. If you are enrolled, please go to my.trcoa.edu and take the quiz over tonight's lesson. If you are not enrolled, you can check out more programs in the school at trcoa.edu. And any of the students here that are enrolled in my class, if you do have any questions or need to book any specific lessons with me, please reach out with email or text and we can schedule a time to work with you. Thanks everybody again for coming by tonight. This was the piano miking seminar, and we will be back tomorrow night where we're going to talk about parallel sends with vocal mixing from the session that we had last time whenever I talked about our chain. Now we're going to throw on the next steps that I would normally do in my vocal mixing process. So everyone, y'all have a great rest of your night, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Peace out.